Hey,
Thank you so much, Christina. And thank you all for being here. I see many people I've gone to talk with over this year and previous years. So, we're going to first off do a quick presentation where I will talk about 10 ways to use FAFSA completion data. This is a mix of both the FAFSA completion portal, the FAFSA completion dashboard for high school seniors, and also ideas based on kind of what sort of internal tracking you can do. Okay, so let's just get started. There we go. So we'll start with the presentation. And part of the reason we are recording this is because we want to create a video resource that can show these links to anyone who may not be aware of how to use their FAFSA completion data. So we want to create an archived video resource that can help them, especially as they're building a strategy for the future work. And one of the things is we will have opportunity to brainstorm ideas as a group. What are you doing currently? What are you hoping to do in the future? What are you working on that maybe the group can talk about ideas that have worked for them to assist you. And then general Q&A, and once that's done, we'll just go to any Q&A that you may have for Christina or others. Okay. So the first thing I want to talk about is I will not be showing directly the FAFSA completion portal because there is PII in there. But what I have done is I've shown some screenshots of the FAFSA completion portal. As many of you know, only those who are working directly with students on their FAFSA applications can get access to individual student level data. This is in relation to FAFSA application data sharing regulations. And if you have data questions, that's also why we've developed this weekly dashboard that has a variety of tools for you to kind of break down the data to address it in different ways. But if you have FAFSA completion portal access, you can go into the WSAC portal, log in at the top, and then once logged in, click on programs and then FAFSA completion. I just wanted to share that. Now, the first tip is talking about checking the error list weekly. To do this, when you're in the FAFSA completion portal, just go to the Students tab in the FAFSA completion portal, click on the Schools of Interest, check the checkbox for errors, which in this case it is listed as submitted but incomplete, and then click on search. That will make it so you only look at the students who have errors. And part of the reason this is so important is because while you are working with these students, you are aware that these are students who have already shown interest. You don't have to get them to the start, they've already gone to that. So now this is a group that already has a captured interest that really could need the assistance of someone who can help them find their errors. And that's where the second one goes in. The FAFSA completion portal, oh, my apologies. The FAFSA completion portal does not have error codes on it, but in order to find errors, you can go to the federal student aid, then go to their FSA account, navigate to the My Activity, and go to the appropriate FAFSA year. So in this case, 26, 27, and then click on the submission summary. And then you can check for errors in um, the eligibility overview or FAFSA form answers tabs. You can also use make a correction. So this is just helpful if you are trying to figure out how do I find the errors with the students, how to make sure that you are seeing every single error they have as well. Because oftentimes what'll happen is there could be a combination of errors that are going on at the same time. Okay, the third one is actually something that comes up a lot from folks. What if students are not on the FAFSA completion portal? If students are not showing up, it could be some of these reasons. These are the most common reasons we see. And this is important note, the senior list is based on weekly CEDARS list from OSPI. We cannot change the lists within the FAFSA completion portal, because then each week it would just be overridden, since we are getting these on a weekly basis. But some of the common reasons include students' expected grad year is not listed in CEDARS. This is separate from the grade level. That is an important distinction. So just because they're 12th grade doesn't mean they've had an expected grad year put in. Student is not currently listed as having an enrollment code for your school. This especially can happen if there might have been some recent transfer that the student hasn't actually shown up in your system yet. Student currently is listed as having a school exit or withdrawal code, and then student has already been in the system for a previous expected grad year. Uh, you can find this information out by toggling the student list academic year to previous year at top on the FAFSA completion portal. So where you see that academic year at the top of the students tab, you can go back to a previous year and see that they were already there. The system does not allow for double counting in the statistics. That is why they would not be showing up even if they have an expected grad year of this year, but that was entered after the previous year had ended. So for instance, if as of August of the last year, y'all had gotten the expected grad year changed, then they would no longer have been on the final list of the FAFSA completion portal when it closed for the previous year. But that's just something important to know in case you aren't seeing them this year, even though the expected grad year has been changed. Okay, the next big thing is checking for potential matches. So one of the things is the FAFSA completion portal is based on the name, the date of birth, and the zip code of the students. And so it looks at the CEDARS list, and then it looks at the FAFSA application, and it looks at what is this a high enough percentage? And if a student is matched at a high enough percentage, such as 10%, they may have a potential match. Yet only those with enough certainty will automatically match. I believe that's about 30%. And portal users can check for potential matches and update them for their schools. So that means if they've gone to the 10%, you can actually check on this. So to do this, search for only not submitted. So click on that first checkbox and then sort by the match column so that the highest numbers appear first. This is just a more strategic way, so you'll have to go through your whole list. I know that can take a lot of time for y'all. So by doing this and having the highest matches first, then you can click on view details by it and go through them and review them one at a time. One thing is if you don't see anyone on this, that means you don't have any potential matches. But if they have numbers and they're under not submitted, they are a potential match that is currently not matched. One important thing to note too is if they have like those two matches, you have to go one at a time. So if you want to see the second potential match, then you would have to click through the first and review it first. Okay, and you can either say it is a match or it is not a match based on the matching criteria such as the name, date of birth, zip code, as mentioned before. So what if a match is not showing? I feel like this is probably most people's questions. And there's actually a common issue we see, which is things with the FAFSA application not matching the CEDARS information. So date of birth on CEDARS and FAFSA app not matching. We have come across that. And one of the things you can do is check the FAFSA app, make sure they are matching. Each year we see that if the date of birth doesn't match, typically it doesn't match on the FAFSA completion portal. Legal name in CEDARS is not matching close enough to legal name in FAFSA. Check the FAFSA app. This is especially common if it differs because of double names or newly married names. Oftentimes, that can be something where maybe OSPI and CEDARS, a change is feasible. And if a change is not feasible, it is potential that this cannot be corrected. So you may have some students who do not match because there's just too great of a difference. in the system. And part of the reason why we have the 10% is to ensure we're not having folks having to look through 10 potential matches as long as you have the same birth date, right? We don't want that either. Okay, and then 2026, 2027 FAFSA app year was not complete. Instead, it was 25, 26. So that's applicable for just this year. But one of the things is we oftentimes see because both FAFSA apps are feasible for students to complete this year, they complete this year's rather than next year's. Student did not complete the submit did not completely submit the application so that you can check the FAFSA app to ensure that that was done. And one of the things I have come across is a student is in a border school or military situation where parent residence is out of state. So this is where you can check the FAFSA app and you can also run a correction to add a Washington institution. So we only get Washington related schools. That means that if they are not a Washington high school student who has a state of residence as Washington, then what happens is we would need to know that they want to go to a Washington institution. So even if they're not interested, they can always add it as a second school or a third school. Okay. Excuse me. So next, we are going to go over the FAFSA Completion Dashboard for high school seniors. The good thing is we're going to take a tour and look at the leaderboard and what information is on it. We're going to look at how to compare to other schools in a district or county, comparing by subgroups in your district, comparing on trends, and then checking about final rates in the previous year and using it as a goalpost. Okay. Excuse me. So as we are waiting for it, okay, perfect. So this is what the FAFSA completion dashboard looks like. And what you'll see is there's quite a bit of things on here right now. And if you look here, it has a lot of information on state, on FRPL. It also has information on historic trends, and it has the information on the leaderboard. Now, one of the things to note is all of this information is just one view. There's other views that are feasible. And so if we go to menu, we see that there are 9 other menu options. And the first one I want to talk about is the completion leaderboard. And so this leaderboard was created as a way for people to be able to look at similar size schools. So the information on the leaderboard is based on the WIA leagues. That is Washington Interscholastic Activities Association. So that is not for every school. So you,
Sean, it
oh,
looks like we're unable to see the dashboard. I have put the link in the chat for people to see on
oh,
their own computers. Just wanted to let you know.
Oh, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Let me actually reshare the screen and just make sure. I think because I went to the different screen, that might be what happened. Are you seeing it now?
It's slowly coming up. Yes, there we go.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Christina, for letting me know. Okay. So I do want to just quickly go back just so you can see this. So this is the completion data in general. So this is at a glance. And so I just want to showcase this is the trends. This is where you can see some of the totals. And then this is where you see things like the district maps and the leaderboard. But you can go to menu and then go to the other options. And so let me just make sure. Okay. And so I want to go over the leaderboard, and I know I already mentioned parts about it, so I won't go over that piece again. But what that does is this is a way to also see where you are in terms of ranking among similar size schools. Some of them may be in your region, oftentimes they will be, but they may be a little bit more distant depending. And one of the things to note, though, is that we are trying to really encourage friendly competition. And so, what we've heard from some districts is they're telling on their socials ways that they are using this and saying, we are number one, we are number two, things like that. And so, if you are interested in this, please let us know because WSAC would love to help kind of promote that, spearhead some of that friendly competition. And so you can email CAS, that's College Access Support, at wasac.wa.gov as a way to just let us know you're doing this. And we can try to really encourage getting your messages out there. We do know that friendly competition is a way to invigorate staff and students to help with that competitive school spirit. So that's pretty exciting. And you can look by school if your school's on this list. Some schools are not, as mentioned before. And one other important thing is this is a public dashboard. So that means if schools have less than 20 students in their senior class, then you will not show up on the public dashboard. The reason is because of data suppression, so that students cannot be aligned with whether they have or have not completed. Um, so Okay. The next thing I want to talk about was comparing other schools in your district or county, and also seeing how you can work together to build some of your financial aid events, some of your college access events, and so this is a way for you to look on the district level, but there's also other levels you can check into, including a school map view. And on the school map view, we have added things such as look at schools within the county. So you can look among your county, what are other percentage rates, and then you can also look on your district level. And so this just helps if you're also looking at ways that maybe you want to work with students at other schools and you're noticing something where there might be a low completion rate and you want to help other schools in your district. This is a way to really try to kind of build one another up, including building these connections and sustainability, especially for counselors who may be new and may need assistance with some of their events. Okay. And then let's talk about subgroups. So there's also the current completion rates by subgroup. This you can see at state level, it's also at district level. And what you can do is break it down by different subgroups. You can look at college bound scholar status, disability, gender, homelessness, military parent. These are just some of the subgroups. These are the subgroups that we have currently. And one of the things is this also helps to see who may need to be at the table. So, especially with migrant status, looking to make sure migrant coordinators, specialists, liaisons are also involved, especially if you see a drastic difference in terms of the rates. If you're noticing things about maybe with special education or Section 504, including the paras in some of these conversations, or helping them to really feel aligned with other professionals who may be able to assist students. So, as mentioned before, if it does not reach the 20 rate, so the 20 count, then what'll happen is you will not see them. So if you don't have 20 students in that subgroup, they will not show up. I just want to make that clear as well. Okay. And then one of the other things I want to talk about is checking about trends in history each year. So this is actually something that is kind of exciting because it has been expanded. So you can look at statewide levels. You can look at different regions, including districts, ESDs. You can look at school view. And then you can also do comparisons. And so this you can use to look up different rates across the full year. It only has the last completion rate of that month. So what you'll notice is you won't see every single week, but you'll have the last one of that month, and you can compare along the full line. Um, there may be some gaps, but typically those gaps are either when data are not seen or, for instance, the count may have gone below 20. And a good example of that is if you have 20 students, 21 students, and then you have two exit, then you may see it just kind of break that line. Okay, and then what we'll do is we'll also mention how final rates in previous years can also be used as goalposts. So if you look here, and if we look at class of 2025, we can actually look at the final rate and see what it is. And then from there, use it as a way to see, okay, we really want to keep aware of where we were at. We had these resources in place, we were making these plans, but this is what we want to do in the future. And so here's some things that we're going to step it out. So, like if you want to make a plan of action, a campaign, that's some things. And also, if you are working with administration and you've noticed that it went really, really high after an event, you can talk to them and say, hey, see this jump in these 2 months? I think this is connected to the event we did. And so maybe even getting more support in the future for that event. Or if the event didn't prove helpful, you can also realign it to do different things, such as working with community resources like the libraries or credit unions or college access fairs, or even looking at how impactful the one-on-ones are when given different circumstances. So the other piece too is besides that, we do have historic FAFSA completion rates. This is another way for you to see on the district level where kind of the ending was each year. Okay. And then, although I'm not going to go through all of them, there are some others. You can look and to see kind of where you are at in comparison to the same time last year. So, like if last year you were at 30% and this year you're at 32%, you can see that you have a 2% difference there. And then we also have resources here. And these are just resources to assist you, such as the FAFSA completion resources, CAI resources, and some of the other dashboards that are available. Okay, so I'm going to go and finish off with just our last PowerPoint slide. And Christina, are you seeing the screen or is it showing the PowerPoint again?
I am seeing the screen I'm seeing the portal screen.
Oh, okay. Then I will stop that
Yeah, you
share.
have to stop and reshare.
Yep. Thank you all for your patience on that one. Okay, and then from current slide. Oops. Went way past. Okay. The last thing I want to talk about is internal pathways and tracking. The other piece that can be beneficial is especially for those students who are not submitting, making sure that you're tracking what are some of the reasons they're not submitting, what are the pathways they're looking at, and making sure that there is support for them as well. And I want to give two stories that I have seen personally through working with districts and schools that I think are important to know. So, one piece was students are not aware that they can use FAFSA for certificates. So, what the school was noticing was a lot of students were interested in different certificate programs, and they had the assumption that FAFSA was not needed for it or they didn't want to do it for it, but they didn't realize that they could get funding. There is state available funding, especially for the programs that they were looking at. And so it was very crucial to ensure that, this is money that they still can get and making sure that they are not under kind of false pretenses on whether they are or are not eligible for financial aid, especially when they were in these cases. And then the other thing is students taking a gap year. And why this is crucial is because one thing I talked to the district about was when a student is taking a gap year, when they come back, oftentimes they want to go to a program of sorts. But the thing about it is, if they have not done the FAFSA in the past, they do not have that same support. When you are a senior, you have a supportive person who can guide you through the FAFSA, who can help you when you are struggling through different things. And once you've completed the FAFSA, you go through a renewal process that is a lot more streamlined typically than the first time. And so, really, encouraging students to be aware that just because you are saying, I'm doing a FAFSA, you can treat it as a test run. You do not have to treat it as an obligation that you have to go to school the next year. There's nothing in the FAFSA that says you are committing to going to education this upcoming year. And so, really trying to encourage folks to still do the FAFSA, even if they're taking a gap year, because right now is the time that they have resources, and oftentimes they do not have those resources. And so you want to ensure that they're in a place for success even after they graduate high school. Um, and so that's just one other piece is how internal pathways tracking can be helpful in mentioning kind of what trends are present. Okay, so I went through a lot of tips, and I hope many of these you've tried before, many of these are new for you.